Episode number 62 of Making the Case. Has hip hop helped or hurt the black community? Let's get it. Hey, what's going on, YouTubians? It's your boy, Dr. Jacob Isom, educator, speaker, author, content creator, entrepreneur, father, a little bit of everything. All right. Back at you with another episode. We're on episode 62. Hey, you already know we turning them out. Today's episode is titled Has Hip Hop Helped or Hurt the Black Community? Of course, you know I got another great episode for you in store. But before we move forward, you already know we got to go off our two channel norms. One, we take points and not people. And two, we don't do all that cussing, derogatory stuff because we're professional over here. And I like to keep it that way. All right. So let's get into my opening statement without further ado. Now, I'm pretty sure that this question has been asked before, or there's been conversations on podcasts and different places about hip hop and whether or not um, we've really seen any productive change since hip hop has kind of been on the scene. Now, I guess you could look at it a couple different ways, right? On one respect, we have to understand that hip hop has created tons of jobs, right? So gave a lot of opportunities for African Americans specifically, and of course, people of all cultures and races, right? But in particular for African Americans. So of course, that's a plus and a positive, right? But is it worth the damage that has done to the culture, particularly when it comes to gangster rap, drill music, and things of that nature? Like, is the money worth the damage that has caused our kids into our mentality? Um, it depends on who you ask, right? In my opinion, no, because money is a social creation, and it's something that you can't take with you. But unfortunately, we have dealt with generation after generation of trauma, even from slavery, right? People are still triggered by even the word slave, right? People are still triggered by the word nigga, all right? Even though we try to turn it into something positive, but it would never lose its true meaning, which was to demean African American. So, um, is hip hop truly a blessing for us? I wouldn't go that far. But money wise, generate income as far as the economy wise, yes. But unfortunately, we also got the elephant in the room is black people have never controlled the institution of hip hop. And really, that's what it is. Now, hip hop is a culture, but it's also an institution because it's economical, it's cultural, right? So it got different tentacles that goes into different sectors, right? From fashion to music, to branding when it comes to food. So a little bit of everything, right? Um, so what we're gonna attempt to do is we're gonna attack it from different angles to answer the question: has hip hop been a help or a hindrance to the black community? And of course, you know how we do. Um, we're gonna go several different directions. All right. So without further ado, we do have four pieces of evidence. We're gonna get into our first piece of evidence and see what we come up with to whether or not hip hop is helping us or hurting us. All right, let's get into it. All right, so let's get to the first piece of evidence. So we have a platform called the Talon. I believe that's what it's called. Um, and it seems like it appears that it's from like a college or university. Not sure, but that's kind of the vibe I'm getting. But this article is titled "Is Modern Day Hip Hop Negatively Affecting Black Culture?" All right, so let's see what they have to say about is it negatively affecting Black culture. Let's get it. Hip hop has been around since the '70s and is prominent within the Black community. Back then, hip hop was a way for African Americans to help endure low socioeconomic conditions. That is how hip hop became a part of Black culture. And what a lot of people have to understand is that hip hop is literally one of the newest forms of expression musically when it comes to African culture, African American culture, Black African culture, whatever you want to deem it. Of course, we had blues before that, country, jazz, so which are often seen as the precursor to hip hop, which many people believe that it kind of was taking those different elements and those other genres was taken to create hip hop. So hip hop kind of like a gumbo, so to speak, because you'll definitely find R&B and different type of things in hip hop. So just to give you a little context, what do modern day rappers rap about today compared to what old school rappers rapped about? Is the content in their music positively or negatively influence our generation? Some would deem it favorable. Meanwhile, some would consider it to be negative. When going in depth about old school rap music compared to today's rap music, there's a difference in what is being talked about in the lyrics. Most of today's rap music is centered on drugs, sex, and money. Meanwhile, most old school rap consists of real life scenarios. Now, I would say this that it's not necessarily true because I grew up in the 80s. I grew up in the 90s where things started to switch, right? So literally I was born not too far after when hip hop really caught on and caught people attention and then spread worldwide. So there was very much violence and sex and all that in the music back then. Okay. Now, I think the biggest difference is the fact that the way it was talked about and how much is being talked about now. I think those are the two biggest differences. But those different elements was has always been in hip hop, but it's just that now you see more of a frequency of the violence and sex and the drug use. Right. Um the funny thing is that the rappers that rap about drugs are most likely not doing the drugs they're referencing their music. Some, not many though, I'll tell you that. Back then, you had rappers like Tupac Shakur that would rap about real life scenarios and things that were based on his experience, such as growing up in low income environments and being involved in street life. A lot of people took him seriously because of the poetic style that was used throughout his music. Sadly, rapper Tupac Shakur's life was cut short at the age of 25. 6 months later, Notorious B.I.G. was killed due to the ongoing rivalry between the East and West Coast rappers. There were remarkable times when hip hop caused division between people and motivated violence. And this didn't come from hip hop. This just comes from Black culture. We just have to be honest. All right. Thankfully, after both of their deaths, there was no battle between East and West Coast, which is what many people expected. In today's society, this issue is ongoing and much worse, where rappers are dying at the hands of gun violence. What is the link behind this issue? Are there rap lyrics glorifying gang activity and gun violence? When listening to today's music, particularly music that glorifies violence, sex, money, and drugs, some will say that it is negatively influencing our youth, especially African American youth. There have been a there have been cases where rap music in general has helped people endure formidable situations and has motivated people to succeed. But let's talk about how hip hop may negatively affect oneself. And before I read on, I would say that Tupac was very, as you can see, was very instrumental in my life growing up because, yes, he did talk about very real and he touched people, right? Um, and I think more so you get that with hip hop and rap back in the 80s and back in the 90s, right? Well, now it just seemed like the redundancy of the violence, the sex, the drugs, and the fact that there is no balance. And I think that is the biggest complaint for myself and maybe a lot of other people who, been around hip hop, which just celebrated its 50th anniversary. Well, guess what? Um, I'm not gonna tell you my age, but uh, I'm close. I will say that, right? So that means literally I'm a hip hop baby, you know. So I've been around since the inception into now, and I've seen the changes, and I know a lot of us have. Um, and I think there is context, there was perplexity in hip hop back in the days, and now you just don't see. You see the redundancy and the monotony and the focus on what sells. When back in the day that wasn't the case. I think these are a lot of different factors that the reason why people will say that the negativity outweighs the positivity. But let's keep reading. The rappers that rap about drugs may influence the youngsters to do the same drugs and sell them. Meanwhile, that rapper that is glorifying it may not use it themselves. The National Institutes of Health mentions that listening to rap music is positively associated with drug and alcohol use and aggressive behaviors. Listening to rap music can alter our emotion both negatively and positively, and it can have a great influence on our life choices. Is gangster rap causing violence and division in the black community? Most gangster raps include misogynistic, sexist, and violent messages that reach young black audience and cause them to do uh, the things that are being conveyed in rap music. Is hip hop creating this bad image that seems appalling to viewers and can cause them to make immoral and unlawful decisions? I will say this: gangsterism have existed way before hip hop. Violence had existed, sexism, misogyny, all this stuff exists. But the argument is what because hip hop has become the most impactful and popular music genre, now when you take those elements and you put it in the music, you magnify things, right? So now people are going to blame the very instrument that is most popular, which is hip hop. And of course, people have been violent, people have been selling drugs, going to jails and things of that nature. But now, when you perpetuate it and talk about it in your music over and over, and so many artists are doing it, it's only right that people are going to place the blame in hip hop. Makes sense to me. Let's see. What is the commonality behind why black rappers, particularly black male rappers, get killed at alarming and rapid rate? Could it be gang affiliated, social media, or could it be the messages that are sent in their music? Hip hop seems to lose artists every year, from XX Extension to Takeoff. It is unfortunate and sad situation because most of the artists are young, successful, wealthy, and extremely talented. According to the Atlantic, it says one reason the violence is getting worse is social media. Rappers are trying too hard to flex online to the detriment of their safety. When someone is flexing, they are trying to show off their riches and the luxury they have, which is common in the hip hop community. Knowing there are jealous people out there, it can be dangerous to boast about the luxurious lifestyle you have, especially if you have a profession as a hip hop artist. Social media is definitely to blame. Absolutely. Um, Hip hop was meant to be a way for African Americans to come together and deal with low socioeconomic issues. Why do they keep saying that? Hip hop started because people were just having fun. It had nothing to do about them being poor. Now, was that a factor? Yes. But it was the fact that music has always been a way that any culture expresses themselves, right? So whether you poor or not, it really doesn't matter. You're going to try to have fun. Now, the wealthier you are, the more options you get, but people just trying to have fun. The evolution of hip hop has gone from having good storytelling and lyricism about someone's personal life, but now it is more focused on unimportant things such as colorism, sex, drugs, and misogyny. How can hip hop artists make hip hop music back to how it was or even better? They can't. Those times are gone. The fact that hip hop was created as a way for blacks to come together should not be used as a way for black people to tear each other down. Instead, it should be used as a way to help and motivate those who are struggling. There should be activism within the hip hop industry and music in general, educating and leading our youth in the right direction. And I agree, right? I feel like that hip hop should definitely do more, can do more. It has provided a lot of people with jobs, but it should definitely be more activism within the hip hop community. There should be more organizations. There should be creations of different program, hospitals, helping the homeless, etc. Right. So I'm calling for there to be more done. Where the where is the hip hop school? And literally call it the hip hop school, where it's focused on music, the arts, and you know how to use social media properly, etc. So hip hop needs to do more in order to balance the negativity that's coming. That's really what I'm saying. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and move to the second piece of evidence to make the case: is hip hop hurting us or is it helping us? With this article, eh, I'm still on the fence. What say you? All right, let's get into our second piece of evidence. All right, so for my second piece of evidence, we have an article from a platform called City Journal. Never heard of it, first time using it. And the title is How Hip Hop Holds Blacks Back. So, of course, this article is going to be more so focusing on the negative side. Maybe they'll throw in some positive or acknowledge it. I know I like to be fair in my writing and things of that nature. So, but we'll see. This is an extremely long article, so we won't read all of it. We'll just touch on certain points. So, all right. So let's get to it. Not long ago, I was having lunch. Oh, we're gonna skip that. Let's see. Here we go. Many writers and thinkers see a kind of influence political engagement, even a revolutionary potential in rap and hip hop. They couldn't be more wrong by reinforcing the stereotype that long hindered blacks and by teaching young blacks that a thuggish adversarial stance is the properly authentic response to a presumptively racist society. Rap retards black success. Now, I will say, like, there is we know gangster rap and, drill music and stuff like that. It shows the worst side of black people, of black community. Um, and we know black people in the black culture is not a monolith. So there's different shades and grades. But the most popular form are those forms, gangster rap, drill music, and stuff like that. So we're constantly being put on display by the worst parts of people who are out there spewing the negativity, violence, and misogyny. So it definitely doesn't look good. I can tell you that. The venom that suffuses rap had little place in black culture, indeed, in black attitudes before the 1960s. The hip hop ethos can trace its genealogy to the emergence in that decade of a black ideology that equated black strength and authentic black identity with a militantly adversarial stance towards American society. In the angry new mood captured by Malcolm X appraised fist, many blacks and many more white liberals began to view black crime and violence as perfectly natural, even appropriate, responses to the supposed dehumanization and poverty inflicted by racist society. Briefly, this militant spirit embodied above all in the Black Panthers infused black culture from the plays of Leroy Jones to black exploitation movies like Melvin Van Peebles' Sweetback's badass song, which celebrated a black criminal rebel as a hero. And that was the black exploitation era and the 60s going into the 70s. That was a unique era because you did have Malcolm X and the black Muslims. You did have Dr. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X that was both assassinated in the 60s, but then you had the Black Panther Party. So you had that balance, right? Yes, you saw pimping and things of that nature. The violence wasn't, it was kind of on a rise of being put out there. So it was almost like when black people wasn't in media like that, we wasn't portrayed like that. But once we start getting more on film and television, that's when you see the image started getting a little bit more tarnished, right? Or people was able to control our image, right? So we've never really been in control of our image. And now that we are more so in control of our image, we continue to perpetuate the same things that they want the image of us to be like. So but black exploitation and similar genres burned out fast. The memory of whites blatantly stereotyping blacks were too recent for the typecast in something like Sweetback Badass Song, not to offend many blacks. Observe black historian Leroy Benton. There's a certain grind white humor in the fact that the black marches and demonstrations of the 60s reached artistic fulfillment, with provocative, and ultimately insidious reincarnation of all the sapphires and studs of yesteryear. Early rap mostly steered clear of the sapphires and studs, beginning out as a growl from below, but as happy party music. The first big rap hit, the Sugar Game's 1978 Rapper's Delight, featured a catchy bass groove that drove the music forward as a jolly rapper celebrated himself as a lady man and a great dancer. Soon, kids across America were rapping along with the nonsense chorus. I mean, it wasn't, but think about it. That was the beginning of hip hop. It was a pretty sappy chorus, but nonetheless, so for all my younger audience, this is some hip hop history for you, right? And of course, I won't read all that. Um, but rap took a dark turn in the early 1980s as the bubblegum music gave way to a gangster style that picked up where black exploitation left off, which gangster rap can kind of be seen as black exploitation for sure. Now, top rappers began to write edgy lyrics celebrating street warfare, drugs, and promiscuity. Grandmaster Flash Omni's 1982 hit The Message with its chords like a jungle sometimes and make you wonder how I keep from going under. Man, what y'all know about that, man? But that was real though. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the music touched on, man, this is how we living, man. Like it's like we living in a jungle, a cage. So to me, that's different than, some of the songs that just, perpetuate and, because how many more songs are we gonna have that's talking about the violence in the hood and selling drugs and murdering somebody? Like, how many more songs do we need? I'm not saying that, but it has to be more creativity to it. And that's the thing. We've lost the creativity in hip hop. Let's see. We're gonna skip down because they just going over lyrics for some reason. So rap musical accompaniment mirrors the brutality of rap lyrics and its hardness and repetition. Simmons fashioned his recordings in contempt for euphony. What we use for melody was implied melody, and what we use for music was sounds, beats, scratches, stuff played backwards, nothing pretty or sweet. The success of hip hop was resulting in an ironic reversal. In the 70s, screaming hard rock was in fashion among young whites, while sweet, seniors, funk, and soul ruled the black airways, a difference I was proud of. But in the 80s, rock quieted down and black music became the assault on the ears and soul. Anyone who grew up in urban America during the 80s won't soon forget the young men strolling down the street blaring this sonic weapon from their boom boxes. I remember that. With defying glares, daring anyone to ask them to turn it down. But you know what? Don't want some times, man. Don't want some time. Hip hop exploded into popular conscience at the same time as the music video and rappers were soon all over MTV, reinforcing images the ugly world portrayed in rap lyrics. Video after video features rap stars flashing jewelry, driving souped up cars, sporting weapons, angrily gesticulating at the camera, cavorting with interchangeable, mindless, gyrating, scantily clad women. Of course, not all hip hop is belligerent and profane. Entire CDs of gang banging, police baiting, women bashing, invective would get old fast to most listeners. But it's the nastiest rap that sells best. That's true. And the nastiest cuss that make a career. As I write, the top 10 best-selling hip-hop records are 50 Cent, Bone Crusher, Lil Kim, Fabulous, Lil Jon, the East Side Boys, Cameron, Busta Rhymes, Scarface, Mobb Deep, and Eminem. A lot of young people don't know who those people are. Some of them, but let's see. I'm trying to think if I want to read anything else. Okay, maybe rap isn't progressive in any meaningful sense. Some observers will admit, but it isn't just a bunch of kids blowing off steam and so nothing to worry about. I think the response is too easy. With music video, DVD player, Walkman, the internet, clothes, and magazine all making hip hop an accompaniment to a person's entire existence, we need to take it more seriously. In fact, I would argue that it is seriously harmful to the black community. The rise of nihilistic rap has mirrored the breakdown of community norms among inner city youth over the last couple of decades. It was just as gangster rap hit its stride that neighborhood elders began really to notice that they lost control of young black men who were frequently drifting into lives of gang violence and drug dealing. Well, into the 70s, the ghetto was a shabby part of town where, despite unemployment and rising illegitimacy, a healthy number of people were doing their best to keep their heads above water, as the thing saw the old black sitcom Good Times put it. By the 80s, the ghetto had become a ruleless war zone where black people were their own worst enemy. It would be silly, of course, to blame hip hop for this sad downward spiral, but the glamorizing life in the war zone, it has made it harder for many kids who stuck there to extricate themselves, extricate themselves. Seeing a privileged star like Sean Combs behave like a street thug, tell those kids that there's nothing more authentic than ghetto pathology, even when you get wealth beyond imagining. Um, the attitude and the style expressing hip hop identity keeps black down. Almost all hip hop, gangster or not, is delivered with a cocky, confrontational cadence that is fast becoming, as attested by the rowdies at KFC, a common speech style among young black males. Similarly, the arm slinging, hand hurling gestures of rap performers have made their way into many young blacks' casual gesticulations, becoming integral to their self expression. The problem with such speech and mannerisms is that they make potential employers wary of young black men and can impede a young black's ability to interact comfortably with coworkers and customers. The black community has gone through too much to sacrifice upward mobility to pass a kick in an adversarial hip hop identity. All right, I I think they made a pretty strong case. Um, it's almost over, so we'll stop there. I would say that he did mention trying to put it all on hip hop, all the violence and all the downfall of the black community, of course, is nonsense, right? These conditions exist, which why a lot of people will say that's how hip hop came to be, right? But now there is a okay, now hip hop is bigger than ever, right? Bigger than any other musical genre. I don't think anybody would really debate that. So now is hip hop's responsibility. It has to be accountable for the music that it portrays and that it puts out. I will agree with that. Okay. So now that you spent a good amount of time saying this is what life looked like as a black person or in the ghetto or in the projects, now let's talk about how do we get out of it? How do we change these circumstances? Right? How do we create generational wealth in our families? How do we do that? We need to be talking about solutions now and not be problem focused. We need to be solution oriented. Okay. This is the responsibility that now the baton, the hip hop has to carry now and move forward. What are the solutions? We have the economics, we have the mechanisms, we have the brains in order to come up with the solutions. And I would love to be a part of it. Okay. But yes, hip hop definitely has his hand dirty in the perpetuation of the violence, the misogyny, etc. All right. Time to start coming up with some solutions. All right. All right. So let's get into our third piece of evidence on does hip hop help or hurt the black community? Let's go. All right. So this is going to be my piece of evidence number 3. We're going to go more so on the positive side, or I should say, the helpful side. I feel like the last 2 pieces of evidence were more so on that it's hurting the black community. This speaks more so to helping it. All right. So I have an article from Columbia School of Social Work, which I actually have my first degree in social work. This was not intentional though. Title of this is 50 Years of Hip Hop Exploring the Transforming the Influence of Hip Hop on the Field of Social Work. All right. So I don't take it talking about on the field of social work as it just because when they are talking about social work, they just mean helping individuals out. Okay. So keep that in mind as we read this. All right. So let's get into it. In the dimly lit streets of New York City's marginalized neighborhood under the open sky of public parks, a cultural revolution was brewing. Born from the struggles and aspirations of African American Latino youth, hip hop emerged as a powerful force that would eventually illuminate the path towards social change and empowerment. Beyond its musical influence, hip hop has made a profound impact on social work, empowering communities, advocating for social justice, and providing innovative approaches to therapy. As we celebrate 50 years of hip hop, we explore how it played a pivotal role in the field of social work. Now, yes, hip hop it definitely has been influential. I don't think we can deny that. I think a lot of people argument is like, has it influenced us positively or negatively? Of course, it would be both, but which one is more lingering or has more of an impact? And I may say more so. I don't know. It can be a toss up. It just depending on context, depending on who you talk to, depending on um the different subcultures. So it's a lot of different factors. But I mean, of course, hip hop had a huge influence on society at large. But in this episode, I'm particularly talking about the Black community. So keep that in mind. Hip hop music culture is a product of African American, Afro Caribbean, and Latino inner city communities plagued by poverty, proliferation of drugs, and gang violence in the 1960s and early 70s. By providing the youth with a sense of identity and belonging, hip hop's strong influence fosters a sense of unity, marked by economic hardship, racial discrimination, and limited opportunities. And these challenging conditions, young artists turn to music, poetry, and dance to express their experience and emotion. And I keep seeing that all these artists are mentioning that because they are poor, they came up with this, right? Well, music is a part of culture, whether you come from an affluent neighborhood or you come from a poor neighborhood, right? It's just that typically the music that come from it is going to address a lot of the social realities that people are coming from. So yes, hip hop did talk about the violence and drugs and therefore, but it also talked about having fun and you know the dating culture and things of that nature. So it's going to be all encompassing because as people we have a diverse experiences. So, but I noticed that every article keeps bringing that up though. There's also healing of what is now referred to as hip hop therapy, which I've never heard of. This is interesting. Utilize elements like rap, dance, graffiti, and beatboxing. Hip hop therapy provides a culturally relevant and expressive outlet for individuals dealing with trauma, mental health issues, or emotional challenges. This form of therapy has proved highly effective in reaching individuals who may have been resistant to traditional therapeutic methods. Hip hop therapy systematically integrates the culture into a clinical setting, providing creative outlets to clients. This is interesting. I've never heard of hip hop therapy, but you know. Let's see. We're going to hip hop's ability to foster connection among people transcend geographic and cultural boundaries. Social workers harness the power to facilitate community development and support system, governed by what some scholars will call 6 elements of hip hop, which I've only heard of 5 elements of hip hop. They got the DJing right, the MCing, breaking, graffiti, um, and then they got theater and literature and knowledge of self. I mean, I wouldn't disagree with it. I just never heard of those other 2 forms. So let's move on down. Over the past 50 years, hip hop has become more than just a genre of music. It has become a movement for social change and empowerment. Its ability to shed light on social issues, provide creative avenues for expression and healing, and empower marginalized communities has made hip hop an indispensable tool in the social work toolkit. As we continue to go down this path, the fusion of hip hop and social work promises to illuminate more lives and pave the way for a brighter, more ethical future. Now, I would say, and this article made a lot of great points as far as the positive aspects of hip hop and what it has done to the community. All true, right? But as I was mentioning in the last piece of evidence, we just expect more out of hip hop after being around for 50 years, half a century. That's a long time. We expect more institutions. We expect more hip hop scholars to come out. So with power comes great responsibility and accountability. So, although all these things are true, we just need to tone down on the rhetoric of, yeah, I came for the trenches and that, this, that, and the third, while a lot of these people have their kids in private schools and living in $1 million houses, right? So we got to start being more authentic and more realistic. And also we got to start being more transformative, as this article is saying, because I don't see the transformative piece. But I do understand that hip hop has changed a lot of people's lives. It changed my life. So we're gonna move into our last piece of evidence and wrap this episode right on up.
The research that it did have major impact in the community?
Yeah, but probably different than you imagine.
You think so?
Wow. My hypothesis is that it had different effects depending upon where you were living. I don't know if this is true or not, but my view is for people who live in the inner cities, this is going to have very little effect. I think it's already, this type of language is already out there. People are already having these discussions. That's where the songs come from. Now, the question is for the kid in the suburb who those discussions were not having, right? So imagine you move your kids out to the suburb, right? And then you're trying to get away from some of these things. And then now they can just tune in on radio and get the same and log in and tap into that type of identity. That might be dangerous. So that's my hypothesis, is that yes, it's going to have big effects, but not where you imagine.
Do you believe, without even doing the research, that it did have major impact?
All right, that was my fourth piece of evidence. I thought that video was that was a very interesting take on the effects that hip hop has. Now he focused on society and not just the black community. But when I saw the video, I was like, man, I never thought of it that way. And I believe he's absolutely right. Right. Like he said, he hasn't really done the research and the digging like that. But just off of face value, because for the simple fact that, well, if as these articles are suggesting that, hip hop came out of certain conditions, right? Poverty, violence, and things of that nature. That means that the kids who are rapping about it, they're already used to it, right? So it may be having a little impact on them, because they witness it on a day-to-day basis. But when it comes to the kids in the suburbs or the kids in China and Japan and things of that nature, like who are not used to the slang, who not used to seeing the violence, is not used to, hearing women get talked about in a certain way, like they're definitely more impacted by the music than, say, the kids that grow up in the inner city. So I definitely see the point that he was trying to make, which will tell you something, though. We'll go back to the premise of this video, right? Is it helpful or hurtful? Well, when you look at other communities, when it comes to Chinese kids, white kids, Hispanic kids, so I work with kids on a day-to-day basis. I see kids of all nationality look and talk the same way. Why do you think that is? It's because of hip hop. It's because of the music. But we can't forget social media as well. And hip hop has a large imprint on that. I mean, we just got to be real. So, the sagging, the cursing, the violence, like I see it. So, but I will say that in a lot of other cultures and community, it's a very small subculture, right? Because for the most part, those other cultures, they maintain their traditions and their culture, right? They ain't pulling up with their foolishness. All right. So it's almost essentially like if you are influenced by hip hop, you're outcasted, right? So it kind of is what it is. So is hip hop more helpful or hurtful? It depends, right? It's all about context. If you somebody who understand that a lot of the music is not real, that a lot of people are saying stuff that they're actually not living, then hey, you in good shape. But if you actually think you listen to the music and you think it's true, you want to mimic it, you want to copy it and go do it, then it's going to be very harmful for you. Okay? Because it's really influence. We know everything is influential, right? But some people take it to heart and really idolize rappers and things of that nature. And man, we see that aspect of our culture. And we see other people like me, when I was growing up, hey, it was just something to listen to. Certain that had beautiful rhythm to it. And, I enjoyed just listening to it sonically. and listen to the lyrics and how creative people are. So I looked at it as a fan of art, right? But we know everybody don't do that. So, but there you have it, man. That's episode number 62. We're gonna end it on that note. Please, please, please give me your feedback. Leave me your thoughts and comments. Is hip hop helpful or hurtful? What do you think? If you have any topics you'd like me to make the case on, please leave it in the comment. I'll make sure to get to it. Okay. Hopefully I can make you proud. All right. Hey, as always, I'm you. You are me. Love always, love eternal. Remember, the worst thing you can do is lie to yourself. You can cop the merch, the books, and all that. You already know the link's gonna be in the description. All right. Hey, deuces. One love.